The Browns beat the Miami Dolphins. And yes, while that is an obvious thing that the Browns should have done this week, it is something that the Browns have not done. And what I'm talking about is that the Browns have not met expectations. They've come below expectations. I think this is the first time that this team has truly met the expectation set for them. And they put 40 points up on the Miami Dolphins, just like everybody expected to. We're going to break it down. We're going to talk about it more, so stay tuned. All right, so the way we do things here is we're going to break down kind of the storylines that I had going into this week. And the first thing we're going to talk about is the Ryan-Fitzpatrick versus Browns thin defensive line. Ryan Fitzpatrick got sacked 4 times this game. The Browns defensive line, the people on it, since they only had one starter this week, stepped up in a big way. I mean, you got Sheldon Richardson, who had 2 sacks, 1 tackle for loss. Obviously, his best game as a Brown, stepped up in a major way when you needed him to step up. He's one of the star players that stepped up and played like a star player. Chad Thomas, 2 tackles for loss, stepped up, looked like a 3rd-round draft pick, looked like a dude who belongs out there. That's great. And then Joe Schobert, back-to-back 2 interception games, absolutely huge for this defense, stepping up yet again. And it makes you feel better for next week when the Browns go to Pittsburgh, because you're probably going to get back Larry Ogunjobi. Well, you're going to get back Larry Ogunjobi, and you're probably going to get back Olivier Vernon, hopefully. Also on offense, you're going to add David Njoku. So, yes, while you don't have Myles Garrett and while it's going to hurt, it might be mitigated by having Olivier Vernon and also having Joe Schobert play at a much higher level than he has at the beginning of the season. Pay Joe Schobert is all I have to say after that performance. The second question is, will the Dolphins be a trap game for the Browns? This was kind of a question because this was clearly set up to be a trap game, as much of a trap game as it can be for a 4-6 team. And that turned out to be a huge feather in the cap for Freddie Kitchens. I've been critical of Freddie Kitchens. I've called for Freddie Kitchens' job. This was a eyebrow-raising in a good way experience with Freddie Kitchens, because this team this week is much public scrutiny, as much turmoil as they have to deal with, as much of a magnifying glass as they had on this locker room since Thursday Night Football. For this team to come out, and not just come out prepared, but come out and have their most prepared, best prepared start to a game that they've had all season, that's a feather in the cap of Freddie Kitchens and the growth of Freddie Kitchens. And it makes me believe that this dude might actually have a future. I'm not completely sold in that direction. A win in Pittsburgh will do a lot to sell me in that direction, but this was a feather in the cap of Freddie Kitchens. This was Freddie Kitchens doing a good job. This was leaders stepping up in the locker room. This was this team not being the locker room malfunctioning mess that the media thought they were going to be, and being a tight-knit, close group. And I think they should get some credit for that, the players. And I think Freddie Kitchens should get some credit for that, because he's dealt with a lot of criticism when it comes to that aspect of coaching. And I think that's one of the things that Freddie Kitchens is actually really good at. And this week kind of showed it, and hopefully he can show this next week in Pittsburgh. The next question was this Browns wide receiver core versus a thin and blitz / man heavy Dolphins defense. Would the Browns receivers be able to go off against a Dolphins defense that is not equipped to cover a team with as much talent as the Browns on offense? And to answer that question, Jarvis Landry had 10 receptions for 148 yards, 2 touchdowns. Jarvis Landry has been quietly having himself a very strong year and having some very strong performances. He's been consistent. He is a gritty player. He is a player that I am glad is on this team, and he's a great leader, and he has been all positive for this team at all points in this year. But Jarvis Landry came through, had a big game against the Miami Dolphins. Not his first big game of the year, actually. He had the big game against the Baltimore Ravens. Jarvis Landry and Baker Mayfield, I like that they're starting to have some real chemistry. It really feels like it's clicking between those two at a higher level, at the level that they're going to need it to be. And then the guy that it also needs to click with is OBJ, who had 6 receptions, 84 yards, and a touchdown. But more importantly, OBJ got a touchdown on a deep ball. And we've been waiting for that. All season, we've been waiting for that play to happen, and it finally happened. And hopefully that can rip the Band-Aid off of these issues and just let touchdowns start to flow after that. I don't think it's going to be that simple, but it does look like OBJ, Baker Mayfield, they're starting to understand each other. They're starting to speak the same language, and they're starting to understand and play better. Jarvis Landry and Baker Mayfield, it looks like they're right there. It looks like Jarvis Landry has that same kind of chemistry with him that Rashard Higgins had last year with Baker Mayfield. So when that guy with that chemistry is Jarvis Landry, it makes it that much more dangerous, and that is a very good thing for this Browns offense. Then the last question was, what will this Browns running back duo do versus a struggling run defense? And that is a lot, because the Browns had Nick Chubb, who had 21 carries for 106 yards and a touchdown. Big time. Kareem Hunt, 8 carries, 37 yards, and a touchdown. Running game did their thing. They continued to do great things. And this is what I'm most excited about this win, is because all year it's been about the stars not showing up, the big name players that this team has not showing up. This is the first time all season where all of the guys you felt like should have showed up showed up. Baker Mayfield, 327 yards, 24 out of 34. So that's over 60% passing, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception, and 118 passer rating. Like, he showed up. He played the game that he needed to play, that he was expected to play. Big time. Jarvis Landry, big time, big money game. He's a big time, big money wide receiver. Same thing with Odell Beckham. Big time, big money game for a big time, big money wide receiver. And then your 2 big time, big money running backs, Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, had big time, big money contributions to this offense. And even on the defensive side, you had your Pro Bowl linebacker play like a Pro Bowl linebacker back-to-back weeks in Joe Schobert. You had Sheldon Richardson, your big time, big money defensive tackle, play like a big time, big money defensive tackle. Demarius Randall had a good game outside of a weird personal foul call. But that was the key for this week. Will your big time, big money players actually play like big time, big money players when they need to, when they're expected to? And this is the first time all season that they answered the call and said yes. And that is huge for this Browns team, because that has been what's missing. Now, I don't want to overstate things, because this is a win against the 29th ranked passing defense, the 30th ranked rushing defense, and the 30th ranked team overall. So there's a limited amount of things you can take away from, and there's a limited amount of excitement that I can take from this game, because they just did what they were supposed to do. Now, yes, are there things I'm concerned about? Absolutely. Austin Seibert had a little bit of a run of missed kicks going, but you know what? He made the 40-yarder field goal at the end of the game, and he made another field goal, and it feels like he's kind of gotten back in his rhythm. I've noticed he's kind of streaky when it comes from field goals, so hopefully that's out of it, but I do have a concern about him kicking on Heinz Field, which is one of the toughest places to kick, and that game could come down to a field goal. So hopefully he is going to be automatic against the Pittsburgh Steelers, but I'm not sure. There were some issues with coverage. Guys, again, just being butt booty naked open when they shouldn't be butt booty naked open. That needs to be fixed, and that really should be fixed, because there's no excuse in the secondary. You have your big time players. They need to be able to shut things like that down. The defensive line did contribute into giving up points late, but I don't know how critical I can be of them, because they were only playing with one starter. They're going to have Larry Ogunjobi back next week. They should have Olivier Vernon back soon. So Hopefully they don't have to play with that. But even then, the depth is good there. They played really well. And I could see the Browns playing Sheldon Richardson as a defensive end, Olivier Vernon on the other side of him, and then having Devereaux Lawrence and Larry Ogunjobi in the middle. I think that could be actually a really effective way to make up for the loss of Myles Garrett. And I'm kind of excited to see what they do to do that, because they did a good job manufacturing pass rush this week. So that'd be an interesting thing to look at. Now, this team had two huge gaffes that I want to make sure I mention. The jet sweep, that ended up being like a 15-yard fumble, and they just pushed that drive back. Things like that can't happen against better teams. And the snap that went behind Baker, again, things like that can't happen against better teams. You got away with it. But those kind of sloppy things still need to be cleaned up. And those are the things that concern me going forward. But my final thoughts on the game is that, hey, the stars came out to play. That's what we've been asking for this entire season, is that the star players play like star players. They did it today, granted, against one of the worst teams in the NFL, but they have not been able to do that all season. So hopefully this is a good sign that they will continue to go on this upward trajectory that they've been going on since they've broke from the bye, and play better football and play really good football next week against the Pittsburgh Steelers. So I'm excited about what the future is for this team for this season. And I think that the Browns have no reason to feel like they shouldn't win when they walk into Pittsburgh on Sunday. So it's going to be an interesting week. It's going to be a lot of drama, a lot of intrigue into this Sunday's game against the Steelers. And I can't wait for it, because, obviously I'm already talking about it. But that's my thoughts on this win against the Miami Dolphins. Obviously, always great to get a win, but, you're supposed to beat this team, and they did what they were supposed to do. So, let's talk about Pittsburgh, because that's really the big thing on the horizon, beating Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh for the first time since Tim Couch did it in, I think, 02 or 03. So do that, and really make your marker on the season, really turn things around, get back to 500 and start to win games. And I think if you can get to 6-6, beat Pittsburgh, then it's all ahead of you at that point for the Cleveland Browns. So again, going to be interesting. Going to be a fun time, hopefully. But that's my thoughts on everything. What are your thoughts? Let me know in the comment section down below. Are you concerned about anything, or are you absolutely happy with how this win broke down? I can understand both point of views. But let me know what you think in the comment section down below. If you like what I do here, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, ding that notification bell so you can be notified. And have a great day. Have a good night.